So good evening, all of you, and good afternoon to you, Paula.
Hello. Hello,
Welcome
good
you
afternoon.
to this group of people who are very, very interested in anything to do with building your own life and building your own goals and personality. Anything to do with psychology and self-help. Everyone is interested in this. So I want to welcome you to this group and share your knowledge and experience. And as a message to everyone in this group, I have known Paula for many years now, but many years, and she's extremely qualified. She's a licensed NLP trainer. She is, I don't remember the number of certifications she has got, and also a licensed trainer for Ziegler Foundation. She is also a person who has started Ziegler Foundation and its courses in Italy, and also helping in translating a whole lot of literature from English to Italian for the local audiences over there. And in this today's session, she is going to share with us her own journey from moving from survival to significance, and how she discovered a lot of things within herself, and how she is using that to not only help herself in her own life, but for a whole lot of people everywhere around. The point here is, what are you going to be known as? What kind of a legacy are you going to leave when you leave from here? How are you going to be remembered by people, and what will you have achieved in life to be remembered like that by people? And this is a very interesting subject, because very often we feel that we have a whole lot of time to live, and we have all the time to do things that we wish to do, but really there isn't much time, and the time to do something that you wish to do for the world is now. So with this, and not taking any more time, I hand over to Paula and request all of you to keep your microphone on mute, but when you need to ask something, you can always unmute your mic and ask a question, or you could always chat, and we could read your question and answer. So with that, over to you, Paula. Looking forward to a wonderful session and learning from you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. I'm so happy and excited to be here with you today, connecting from Italy, the south of Italy, Calabria. This was the birthplace of my father, and this is where I come to every year. It's very fortunate that I can be here today to speak to you about a topic that is really, really dear to me. So welcome to you all. Love connecting with India today. I know you've had this very long series of talks during these weeks. Really very interesting and very topics have been dealt with in the area of personal development. So probably all our friends connected are either very experienced or becoming experienced, or at least they are very curious about all the various facets of personal development, I think. Amit, when you invited me to just pick a subject, any subject, I felt like a kid in a candy shop, the idea of just picking anything, anywhere from neurolinguistic programming and coaching and communication really excited me. Then I thought to myself, do you really want to go about another theory? Do you just want to hold a speech on another, tool or pattern? And then I thought to myself, maybe why don't you give a presentation that cannot be found in any of the books, because it's just your testimony. Why don't you leave something that is very special for us today to share? So I am going to tell you today how I applied all these tools that we are learning. We are all sharing the same interest today, how I applied them to my life to really improve my life, to live a better life, because all in all, it's about quality of time. It's about quality moments in our life. I am myself a person who has learned, researched, and practiced for almost a decade now, exploring daily, I must say really daily, on various domains, from nonverbal communication to public speaking to leadership and persuasion, voice coaching, sales, charisma, spirituality, and what have you. We all come from various ways of life, and I think we all have our special why when we choose to devote our time, effort, money in learning in this field, in human development, in personal growing. So what is your why? Why do you take the bother and time and money to attend courses? In the case you do, sometimes people even spend their weekends to attend these courses. I've seen hundreds of people really spending their holidays doing these courses and learning. Why do you struggle to even get certified in specific abilities or spend hours researching, reading, and sharing with others? Is it because you want to change your profession or improve in your own profession? Is it that you want to just keep up with the new trends, have all the new trendy theories at hand? Or do you do this because you care about helping someone that is dear to you, starting maybe from yourself? Well, today I will share my why. I can tell what happened to me back in 2010. At that time, my life was stuck. I must say, I was really stuck. That was mostly professionally, but this had an impact on all my relations as well. There was nothing totally tragic, but really unpleasant events and challenges kept hitting me down. Until a day, it was the summer, like now, there was a day that I finally admitted to myself that maybe, there is something that I have to do with me. From that day on, I decided to take up a mission to study life, to be the best student at the school of my own life. So what do I mean by that? I think, Amit, you have slides for that. I don't know if you want to show our friends so it gets kind of easy.
Sure.
What do I mean by that? The school of life. I mean that I decided that I want to be aware, to become aware. Good, next one. So that I want to be aware of what is going on around me and inside of me. And I want to know that I have a strategy to handle things. So back then, I started spending hours reading, researching, attending courses, hundreds of hours of classes, thousands of euros invested, sometimes miles traveled because I had to go away from home to do all this, days and nights away from home. Still today, I invest 2 to 3 hours daily on average on this habit, learning, school of my life. Reading, writing, listening to motivational speeches, practicing. And I'm not oversizing if I tell you that back then it was really a matter of survival. Or at least this is the way I felt, because I had to get rid of many unpleasant situations in 2010. I've always been there. When you just think you're doing your best and the words keeps knocking you down. You get more and more work to do, no recognition, stress over stress. And it seems that the better you do, the more others are kind of annoyed. And then the same pattern occurs again and again, a lot of frustration, a lot of fatigue. And then you end up questioning, why am I here and what other options do I have? But in the meantime, you have engagements and you may have constraints and mortgages and family and expectations of others. So it looks like there's not much you can do except just avoiding what hurts and learning to survive. Survive what? Survive hard colleagues, difficult tasks, annoying scenarios, misunderstandings in family life and relations despite maybe all the best intentions that you put in. So there was a day that I finally realized that I can choose the impact of events on me, on my daily life. This was all brought to me by neurolinguistic programming. I have a slide for that, Amit, and I like sharing with people. These are some of my certificates. I'm just, I have a wall of these certificates just to remind me of the effort, but it really goes far beyond that. The NLP lesson, what I call the NLP lesson for me, can be summarized in 3 main points. Neurolinguistic programming is a relatively new discipline, but that holds hundreds of books and courses available to you. But to me, it all sums up in these 3 basic things, 3 basic changes that you can make in your life. You change communication with yourself, you change communication with others, and you make sure that you choose to have empowering beliefs for your life. So there was a day when I became aware that all communication has an impact. Who has this experience when your mind, your brain just starts having a conversation with you? Do you know the experience? I've had that constantly. The words I say inside my head, this self-playing inner dialogue oftentimes is against me, So I became a better communicator with myself. Communication with others is also extremely important, and it goes in various forms. We know the verbal communication, we know that words are important, but we also have a paraverbal communication. So sometimes intonation is more important than the voice, than the words itself, or the volume of your voice is more important than the words you're saying. And nonverbal communication as well has a huge role, meaning the body language, but also meaning your actions. And if you know kids, if you have kids in your life, some kids around you, you know that kids, they're much more influenced by example than by dialogues, for example. We can even communicate through silence. That's to say, when we think we are not communicating. Can you think of a situation when silence can hurt more than a bad word? Anybody has an experience with that? Or a situation where silence can show more respect than a million sentences? And then thirdly, why do we want empowering beliefs? Because it all plays in our mind. It's all inside our mind. If we think that something is unavailable to us, it will remain unavailable, even if we have abilities. Beliefs are really the perimeter of our action. And I'm not just thinking about self-esteem. I'm thinking of how big we dare to dream, or how much creativity we think we have, or how much physical effort we believe we can handle. Richard Bandler says you need to change the meaning to change the feeling. What does that mean? It means that when you change what things mean to you, you literally change the feeling associated to it. And that will change your actions. And that will help you change your life, your destiny, really. So I must say I embarked on this NLP experience, which took me years to be accomplished. And it's actually never accomplished because, as you know, you can always refresh your pract and your master training. But I did all this, I must admit, with a radically different approach to trainings than most people around me in those courses that I attended. I noticed that while others were really putting all their focus on techniques, patterns, sequences, and such details, I noticed that my goal had become to really make sure that I honestly and authentically integrate that learning into my life. So I decided that no transformation, no learning. Great transformation, great learning. I just give you 3 examples, and on that, if you want, there is a slide. I have, maybe next slide, or you just wait. You know, what we teach in NLP classes, we say that we should clean up our language. What do we mean by that? We mean that, you know, you want to make sure that when you say no, you really mean it. You don't say no when you want to say yes, when you want to show surprise, or when there are gaps to fill in a sentence. So they told me so, and I completely cleaned up my language. I really did it scientifically. So now I'm sure that when I say no, it's really a no I mean. I'm just not saying it by, you know, accident. I really clean my communication from unintended and unnecessary no's, because a no is a barrier in communication, you know. Or there's something that we tend to say in NLP classes: keep a journal. Make sure you keep track of your progress, and you keep yourself accountable through a journal. Here on this slide, you can see all my journals. I really did from the first day. I'm not saying that one should write his or her own life in these journals. But what we say in NLP classes is that you want to see where you're coming from and where you're heading. So a journal can really keep you accountable on that. Well, here on the slide, you can see all my journals since then, since 2011. You know, I still use today. Here's the one I'm using today. All the pages are filled, no big words, you know, just meaningful steps. They are all registered here, and they let me appreciate the transformations I go through. They give me inspiration also, because as I was saying, they remind me where I'm coming from and where I'm heading to. And then the third example I want to bring you is, you know, in NLP we say that feedback is absolutely important. And with feedback, you want to make sure that you do two things. First, that you learn how to give it. There is a structure how you give feedback. And what's the correct structure? The right structure is first you say what's good, then you say what can be improved, but then you say how to improve it. So if we're NLP practitioners, we are familiar with this structure of feedback. But also the second important thing that we want to know with feedback is that sometimes it comes in the bad structure, but it's still extremely precious. Not everybody has the chance of knowing how to express a well-communicated feedback. Well, in those cases, it's still a gift. And if we are aware of all these distinctions that we do in NLP, then we still want to appreciate the gift. And when the gift comes, we are grateful for the gift, because it's a way for change and for improvement. So that is really not easy to do, because people can really hurt with a criticism. Do we all know that? Sometimes the more we love someone, the less filtered our communication is. So knows what I'm talking about. Husband, wife, parent, child, friend to friend. So we are tempted to overlook the message that is delivered in a poor way. What I can tell you is the best intuitions for improvement came from hard and poorly expressed feedback that was given to me. The message was disguised, but it was precious. And how do I know that this happens, that the message is really precious? Well, normally when I feel particularly annoyed, there's an interesting message in there. So again, I repeat, with feedback, we know two things. We want to deliver it the right way, with the right structure, good, better, how. And when it comes, we want to be really grateful that it comes, no matter how it comes. Because it's a gift, it's a help, it's a hint for transformation. Another thing I learned is that I want to be disciplined in practicing continuous self-feedback. That's a manic we have in NLP. NLP is modeling excellence, so there's always a way to improve how you do things, even if you think you've reached excellence. In this, I have an amazing example in my mentor, Owen Fitzpatrick. Owen is the youngest master trainer ever nominated by Richard Bandler. author, now he's also theater and movie actor. He's really a living genius. I've never met a person who is as eager of feedback as Owen is. You know, every time you go and see him after a performance, even say a speech he has held for 1,000 times, the first thing he'd ask you is, how did you find it? How did you find it? How did you find it? Always, always, there's something that he can find to improve, to make it, you know, more elegant, or the way he says, just have more fun associated to the action he does. Okay, so this is the practice of feedback. So friends, this is NLP for me. This is really the core of NLP for me. I learned to fix my state. You know, we have amazing techniques to fix our state. I learned to make my communication more productive in my daily life. I worked my goals. But really what made a difference was the attitude of curiosity and constant learning and the will to implement everything in my life. Really, NLP is most of all an epistemology, as Robert Dilts says. Robert Dilts is one of the main developers of neurolinguistic programming, has an amazing literature that you can read. Really, NLP is a set of beliefs, first of all. And we hold some fundamental presuppositions to be true and act our own life upon them. So for example, when we say that at some level, all behavior is positively intended, what do we mean? That people make the best choices available to them given the possibilities and capabilities they perceive to be accessible within their model of the world. We don't want to prove this. We're not interested. This is not science. We're not interested in proving it. We just know that by believing it's true and by acting upon this, we will be more productive in our outcomes in our life. So slowly I got equipped with all the strategies and tools that NLP had to give, and not only NLP, between 2010 and 2012. So the more I thought I was fixing myself, the more I felt healed, the more actually I had the sensation that life had challenges for me. Anybody has the same experience. The more you become talented in handling with problems, the more you get problems. Well, actually, I had no idea how precious that investment would be for me. I did it in a time when was an extra. It was really something extra I did for myself. I improved my situation, but, I could afford to really spend this time and improve. And I had no idea that later on I would have real tragedies in my life, like many people also have. So later on, I started experiencing the very hard things in life, like losses. I went through a painful divorce. I saw many members of my family really suffer. But because I had learned how not only survive, but also achieve my goals, and because I had become that kind of person, a person that gets over problems and turns them into an opportunity, then I was able to face the real things that then happened. Because, friends, we are transformational. This is something that my friend Jeffrey Miller constantly reminds me. Jeffrey Miller, he overcame cancer, and he keeps saying it. We are transformational. So because I had become a good student of my life, I spare myself wasting time when the tragedies occurred, wasting time and money, maybe going on medical treatments, or going through choices that would even make situations worse. It was all because of that investment that I had done back in 2010, when virtually there was no need for all that time and money spent on courses. It was like a bank account that I earned for myself when the real stuff came in my life. So I made changes in my environment. I made changes in my behaviors. I learned skills. I changed some of my actions. Finally, I actually changed my identity. And who's familiar with NLP will have recognized here a nice model that we have from Robert Iltz, which is the logical levels. I had previously hated my job. By working all these changes, my job became great and more opportunities were built. I had personal challenges, the tragedies I was mentioning, and I built an identity on these challenges that brought me personal and professional success. There was still one piece missing. It was actually the highest level, and if you know the model of the logical levels, you know that the very top was still missing. So until a day, a man crossed my life, and this man was Tom Ziglar, son of legendary Zig Ziglar, well-known American author and motivational speaker. And this whole world was then opened for me. So everybody knows Zig Ziglar? Amit, you think so? Yeah. You know, in Italy, he's not that easily known, although he has an amazing fan page and his books are constantly reprinted and resold. So Zig Ziglar, legendary motivational speaker, symbol of the American dream, 11th son of a single mother at the time of the Great Depression, became the forerunner of the most efficient sales techniques, wrote over 30 books, recorded hundreds of hours of motivational speeches, ran the country and the world actually to deliver these speeches in front of thousands of people, affected 250,000 of people in a time with no social media. We have bigger figures now for the great gurus of of personal development, but this is a different time. Back then, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, we had no internet and no social media to have this high an audience as we now have. So he was also one of the most quoted persons on earth. You may have heard his most famous quote, "You can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." And in this, he suggests the concept of serving leadership. These are all very, very unique principles in his philosophy that we share and teach at Ziglar. He was mostly known for his books on sales, at least this is how he's mostly known in Italy, sales and motivation. But actually he's written a lot also on family relations, so relations in the couple and how you can raise your kids to have a life full of opportunities. And he was also very keen on the spiritual dimension. So this is the place where I learned the concept of legacy. Legacy, as Amit was saying in the introduction, is the significant impact we have on others. We sometimes think that just a few have this opportunity, or just a few are called to leave an impact and to have a legacy, great persons in history maybe. But in fact, this is something that is open to each and every one of us. Everyone and everything leaves a footprint on this world. I often think of a concept, which is actually a scientific concept. It's inside environmental protection. Ever heard of the concept of water footprint? Well, I learned that everything that is produced, every product actually, leaves a footprint, and you can measure that amount of water that is used to produce each of the goods and services that we use. We can measure this for a single process, like growing rice, or a product like a pair of jeans, even an entire multinational company. So the water footprint is a measure of humanity's appropriation of fresh water in volumes of water that is consumed or polluted. Now, because water is a very precious resource, it's quite interesting to measure this. So I like this image because I think that reversing the logic, we can apply it to life and the impact that human beings have on the earth. We can think of a wisdom footprint. or a love footprint, or a joy footprint, depending on the impact you choose to have in this world and in this life. So likewise, legacy is something we leave in people. It is when you teach and transfer habits that build character, integrity, and wisdom that will ripple for eternity. Legacy is moving people from success to significance, and significance is about giving. In Ziegler terms, in Ziegler view, true performance is the ideal accomplishment of a goal, aspiration, or objective that benefits everyone involved. So in his philosophy, success has to be balanced and has to be significant. So this is what we mean by the journey from survival to success to significance. Well, so folks, to make the story short, I decided that I joined the Ziegler Legacy and I became one of the Ziegler Legacy certified trainers. Ziegler Legacy is a world community that spreads Ziegler ideas and philosophy. We are around 200 in the world, mostly based in the USA, few in Europe. I'm the only one in Italy. I found out that we even have a Zeal Seer from Mumbai, you know. He lives in Dallas, Asif Patel. He's an Indian from Mumbai, but he lives in the US. The Ziegler family is also very committed in the legacy. There's still Mrs. Ziegler, Jean Ziegler, called the Redhead. She's still active. You can go and see her when you go to Dallas and you attend the classes. Of course, Tom Ziegler, who's the president of Ziegler Corporation, and Julie, his sister, Cindy, and beautiful Alexandra, who's Tom's daughter. So the family is really very active in spreading the message. And I think one of the most impressive things of this man, of Zig Ziglar, is that you can see the legacy, first of all, in his family. So when the family is consistent with the message that was given by the main author, meaning Zig, and you see that really he had everything in his life. You know, you can tell by the way his kids were raised that the message was authentic. It was not just something that he delivered out there in the world. So, yeah. Somebody speaking? Well, so to just sum it up, if I can say it in a sentence, NLP gave me a powerful vehicle for my communication. NLP gave me a structure. And Zig Ziglar gave me the quality and content to put in, because it was extremely in line and consistent with my own set of values. I just saw them all inside Ziegler methodologies, so clearly explained and so coherently put together. And just to give you a taste of this Ziegler world, I have here a picture with some symbols. I call them symbols. So the Ziegler system is a proven methodology for success, but success in his vision had to be based on ethics. So a very important thing we have here is our ethical code. This is something I always have with me. And, you know, this is, we tend to say in coaching, you know, that basically you exploit your potential, you virtually achieve anything you want. But we believe that we still have a perimeter, and that perimeter is our ethics. So loyalty, integrity, honesty. Then success is based on a very disciplined goal setting procedure. There are many techniques for goal setting. In NLP, we have one that is extremely powerful. In the Ziegler system, it's slightly different. But in the goal setting process, there is something that is extremely useful to have. And here you can see it on the picture. It's an accountability partner to have. So we have at Ziegler this performance planner. You see mine with my name. So this is something that helps you really make sure that you work on your goals every day and you go through a procedure and you really see the progress you can make in your goal by working inside this planner every day. Remember my journals, by the way, it all fits together. You know, I was doing it because it was a nice habit to have within my NLP classes, but then I came to know that there are extremely well-structured planners like this. So I had the habit already in me of working my goals that way. Now I use more sophisticated tools like this one. Then on this picture, don't know if you steal the picture, but you see the picture, you see here the wall of gratitude of Zig Ziglar himself. You see also Mrs. Jean Ziegler, the redhead, and me in the picture. What is this? This is a tribute that Mr. Ziegler left for all the persons that helped him really make a shift in his life. So this was a tribute of gratitude. So he was, you know, speaking about gratitude, but then really doing it himself, you know, setting an example himself of how grateful he was. And that's something you can see in the corridors of Ziegler Corporation in Dallas. And then last, you have here a picture of this tiny little book, the little book of big quotes. Ziegler was really, I think he's one of the most quoted persons on earth. I sometimes see his quotes with no credits for him, but really he had a production of quotes that is immense. So this little book, just to remind us of how important it is that we put good stuff into our mind, you know, daily, so that we can have a good output. And that all brings us back to, you know, the environmental level and NLP message. Need to put good stuff in to have good stuff coming out. So friends, this was for me the journey from just surviving a situation, then having satisfaction and having my goals achieved, and then getting to some significance. This was for me the project of having Ziegler Italy started. I am working now to bring meaningful resources in my country. My country is in a most difficult situation. I know many other countries are. We may also have hard conditions. But if I think of my country and the way, you know, history goes, we all admit that in Italy we have now a vicious circle economically, politically, and morally, even in many cases. So I think we are very much in need of Ziegler principles in Italy. Integrity, servant leadership, encouragement. And so I contributed to the Italian edition of the latest book by Zig and Tom Ziegler. Here, there's my introduction. But most of all, I really want to bring the message close to the Italian reality. You know, in Italy, we're not very fond of things like the American dream. We tend to think that, you know, something like this is unachievable in Italy. You know, it wouldn't work like that. So we really need to find suitable examples and suitable and really inspiring stories for Italian, and that's what I'm working on. I'm holding speeches and seminars and developing contents for my fellow citizens who don't maybe access directly resources in English. Now, before I leave you, or before maybe we have some questions together, I want to ask you, in which of these phases are you? Or you think you are? Are you in the survival phase? Are you overcoming problems in your life? Or are you already busy achieving goals? Are you in your success phase? Or maybe are you as far as already preparing your impact in life, in your family, in your environment, in your city, in your area? Are you already on significance? And what will take you to the next level? So this is all for me. Before we maybe have a conversation, I want to let you know that I have a gift for you today. And this is the little book of big quotes that we will send you all those registered for today, or just write to me and I will send it by email, just to leave you with a nice Ziegler content. So it was an enormous pleasure for me. Amit, do you have anything that you want to discuss together?
Yes. So, first of all, Paula, really appreciate the learning and the sharing that you brought out for all of us. It was really great. I have a few points to mention before I pass on to the audience. So one of them is, your guru, Owen, is also my guru, and I am trying to get him to do a similar session for the people in this audience. And if that happens, then those who miss a lot, right? So you know how it is, right? If you have Owen talking, and how great that becomes.
Sure.
I'm planning to get that, and maybe if you're interested, I'll invite you too, if you would like to hear.
We would love to.
Right. I think this was a wonderful session. We learned a lot, and the most important thing that I kind of understood is, where do we see ourselves operating in life? Are we operating as a survival stage, living day by day, trying to finish things in our life, or are we really moving towards success? Or are we really going a little above that towards significance, which is where we become a role model, we become a source of inspiration for thousands of people to change and transform their lives using our learning, using our knowledge and our experiences. So this is a very important information that I got out of the session. And I would like to also move to another point, which is all of us who are attending this session here today, we will get a complimentary gift, the little book of quotes from Zig Ziglar, which Paula has, agreed to distribute and share for all of us. And I have seen that book, so I can tell you it is absolutely amazingly inspiring. If you were to just take each quote and go with one day in your life, I can guarantee in 1 month, a lot of things will change in your life, because it's a very, very beautiful book which gives you awesome information. So thank you, Paula, on behalf of all of us here for sharing that book, which I'm going to give out to participants. I also want to mention my third point, which is the contact details of Paula. In case if you would like to get in touch with her, want to know some more information, ask for any information, she can always be reached on her website or her Facebook page, which I would really encourage all of us to go and connect, because the wealth of knowledge that she has in terms of not just NLP, but also Zig Ziglar and many other fields of psychology and spirituality, they are awesome, and I can vouch for it because I know her for a long time. It's amazingly good. So that's my third bit of information. And with this, I would like to hand over to the audience. If you would like to ask any questions to Paula, please unmute your mic and you can ask your question now.
I think I read already a question. I think someone wanted to have a glimpse of the journal. Did I get it correctly? This is the performance planner. It's actually a tool that we use combined with a specific pathway, and that is actually the Live to Win course. It's an online course, but this performance planner contains the goal setting procedure that was created by Zig Ziglar. So before you start really filling it in, you go your goal setting ritual. So there are several pages that tell you how to prepare and how to work on your goal. And then you have progress is measured weekly. So this is my 1 week. You start by establishing weekly goals on this side here. And then you have columns for each day of the week. And the good thing about this is that it helps you, it obliges you to really focus on all the dimensions of life. So the physical, the spiritual, the mental, financial, family, career, everything. So every day you can really tick all the boxes that where you think you have made progress, and then of course also write down all the interesting or less interesting progress you've done. You have to be really disciplined. You see, I really, this is 1 year performance planner. To me, it really keeps me on track. Sometimes I just forget that I have dreams, and the dreams are kind of where all the goals are generated. We start by having tiny little survival goals until we dare to have higher, bigger, more inspiring goals connected to maybe, success, until we really want to have some very big goals. There are people in life who conceive really bigger things, bigger projects. Having a like this, I think, really helps me daily in this practice of nurturing the whole dreaming process, really. So this, if I got the request correctly about showing a glimpse of my planner.
Yes, thanks, Paula. This was useful. Any idea where one can get this kind of a planner? Is it like we need to buy?
You just connect to Ziglar.com. This is sold. This is available through the internet. It can be purchased via the Ziglar.com website. There are many resources. You're lucky because in India you all speak and understand English so well, and you can directly access all those information in English. You were mentioning the books, the quotes and all that. I think Zig Ziglar can be really appreciated the best through his live speeches. And there we have Ziglar on demand also on Ziglar.com. There are, I think, more than 60 hours of live recordings. They're all combined in various paths that you can follow. So either for your success or for your family relations, or you have the various dimensions. They are very nice put together. The real thing, I think, is through his voice more than just reading, actually. This is why I love being in this community. We have weekly conferences. We have annual gatherings with Ziglar Legacy trainers, and each of them is actually contributing and making sure that the legacy goes on, and based on those principles that are very in a way classical, but based on them you can really develop further and see how you combine them with the challenges that we have daily. For example, there is also Ziglar Family, which is a very important reality where there's a community making sure that kids grow with these principles. So before they even face all the hard things in life like bullying or any kind of psychological problem that kids may encounter while growing up, this Ziglar Family really gives resources to families, blended families, all kinds of families, to really face present challenges for kids and for parents as well. So you have plenty of resources in Ziglar.com.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone would like to ask any other question to Paula, please unmute your mic and you can ask now. Neha, do you want to ask something?
It's not asking, it's just I want to say thank you, Paula. You explaining it in such a nice format.
Amit, can you really get what
No,
Neha said?
Neha, I think your voice was breaking in between, but we got the message. Paula, what she was saying was that everything was very nicely explained. It was very clear. Neha, there is some problem with the audio at your end.
Anyway, you can, write your feedback for me. I would.
Yeah, you can chat, and Neha, if you just type, I think we will be able to get it.
Type or you write later on when you feel like. I would love to, keep in touch and maybe.
Yeah, but I think what she was saying was that she really found this useful and clear, and she could understand everything. It was very, very easy to understand.
Good. Great.
Okay, I do have some basic question for you, Paula, which is that, when we talk about leaving a legacy, doing something for the community, achieving our own success by making others successful, the basic question that normally people have is how and where do we start? How do I know what is it that I can do which is going to leave a legacy for the world, which they would remember me for, which is, because most people are always running from 9 to 5 job. They need to get their salaries at the end of the month. They just don't know the potential that they have inside them and how to use that. So this is, everyone is in this, most of them are in the survival stage, and then how do they find their purpose, and then go after that. Any suggestions or thoughts?
Yeah, of course it's a process. Of course you don't wake up in the morning and you're maybe full of problems and you say, let me think of my legacy. It doesn't go that way. It's almost actually offensive to people when you tell them, well, why don't you think of the impact when they're just maybe survive? So it's a process really, because first we need to have those basic needs fulfilled. So stability and really feeling that you're not threatened by, any kind of threats like financial or physical or anything. So that's why we start from survival. We really make sure that your survival thing is done first. Then you move on to stability. So you really consolidate. You ask, how do I do this? All this can be done, of course, through, we have all those tools, coaching, we have, we were saying, becoming aware of your communication through NLP. You pick your tool or your set of tools. But in personal development, we have many tools that can help us in this struggle for survival. So once you're done with that, then you can start working on bigger goals, higher goals. So maybe you can go for something more demanding than just making sure that you have no problems. But before you first need to have that done. Otherwise, the person is just not in a condition to give to others. I was saying legacy is about giving. How can you give if you're yourself someone who's still in need of help? So first that process has to be done and fulfilled. Once we are in that success phase, and success is simply, as I was saying, achieving goals in the Ziegler way, benefiting others as well and everyone involved. In NLP, we have a concept that is the ecological goal. We don't want to have a goal achieved that has bad, turning on people around us. We don't want to improve on one domain and have our life, collapsing in other domains. So our success has to be balanced. It to the world and to think of what else I can bring to the world. It just makes us humans feel that we are accomplished. That's why Robert Dilts puts a spiritual level, where spirituality does not mean that we need to be to have a faith. It means that we all do things for something else, for what else? It's the idea of leaving something once we are gone, but it can be also as simple as just affecting our very little circle. Legacy doesn't need to mean that we necessarily all want to found an association or raise money so that peace and peace can be brought to this world. It can be something extremely small but extremely significant for people around us. But just being aware that we all have that potential, that's already something. We tend to think that that's for leaders, that's for someone else, that's for big people, that's for someone else or maybe more aged persons. This legacy is something we are all called to do and to have, even younger people. And you were asking Amit, how do I know where and how? Well, for that there are also interesting experiences that one can do, but it's basically putting together where your talent is, what brings you passion and joy, and what really makes a difference in other people. If you can solve a problem that no one has, well, probably that's not an interesting legacy. Or if you can solve a problem but that has an impact around you, but that makes you suffer a lot. That's not something you do with pleasure. That's something that is not a call for you. Then don't go for it. Your legacy is something that should just flow out because it's a natural consequence of using your talent. I believe it's a process. I mean, we constantly learn, I think, how we can develop that. And we do that by reading, by working on our own experiences. Right today, I have this project of Ziegler Italy. Maybe in 10 years, I'll have another project. But legacy is really something extremely small that we can do just, in our own reality. Wherever we are, we can make a difference. We can make this difference, as I was saying, by being silent, by speaking up, by giving an example, or just by encouraging people. Don't underestimate the value of just bringing hope and encouragement to people, or of bringing honest feedback to people. Just play your part well, and I think it will all come together. Legacy to me is something like, what do you want your family to be remembered for? I think we all have an adjective that we want to associate with our name. To me, it's really a question also of family tradition, or by family you put whatever you want. It doesn't need to be your blood family. It can also be your other community. In my case, I mean my real family, but all families have a trademark. So just think, what is your family known for? What do you want your family to be known for? Think of a value. Spiritual value. All these personal values sometimes are so much more precious than the material ones. Think of reputation. Think of generosity. These values cannot be bought. They cannot be sold, cannot be transferred. That they can be taught within a family, and they can be brought outside through example, friendship, experiences, or inspiring channels like, writing, speaking, or just doing your work the best way you can. You can be very inspiring through our daily work, very simple work. I have heard tens of stories of extremely simple persons who just do their work in a very passionate way, and they make a change in their environment. They make people around them smile, find the strength to, face the challenges of the day just by doing their simple work the best way they can, with a smile on and, with intention of giving and leaving something to others.
Sure. I think, Krupa, you wanted to add a point over here. You can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I wanted to say, when you said that everybody does not want to make a big legacy or a big name, I really am surprised, because in India, a lot of housewives have this that I don't want to work, I want to help my children, and I want them to grow in the society. That is my contribution to society, and that's how I leave a legacy. So yeah, that point I really liked.
Good. Yeah, it's for you to choose. I mean, your legacy doesn't need to be public. It can be extremely intimate. It can be from the background. It can be from the backstage, but it's still an impact. It can still be very powerful. Most people, the very impacting ones, we don't see them. Even in history, we may know the big character in history, and maybe behind the scenes there was a brother, a sister, a family, a friend, a mentor. So this is what we mean, real impact. And we know that we have given it. We don't need to have a plaque hung or, an open recognition for that. But if this was our own project and our own mission, we know when it's accomplished. To me, it all makes our life worth living if you know you have accomplished your mission and your goal.
Great. Thanks, Paula. I think Neha had a question and she has just, put it on the chat, and she says, we are all transformational. How to get into the right channel for our transformation? How to decide?
Well, I think the only way is just to make a check. How do I feel? How does this feel? In NLP, we have many tools to have to experience an empowering state. Ways how we can recall emotions and emotional states where we really felt something. So, but whatever you put in that state, it has to be something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel in balance, or that makes you feel that you are worth something. So transformational in terms of taking whatever energy comes to you, even, my friend Jeffrey Miller, who has this slogan, we are transformational, he went through a very hard experience with cancer. I haven't had this, fortunately, but I've had other experiences. The idea of being transformational means that you don't choose what comes to you in life. Basically, it just comes. Think of a climate, of a disaster brought by climate change, or whatever you may encounter, in our extremely complex societies. You don't choose that. It just comes to you. But you choose how to respond to it, and you know that you have a way to transform that energy into something else. Now, how do you do that? I think we would need to organize another seminar for that. But this idea of transforming energy, sometimes you are surrounded by extremely, I don't want to say negative people, because, everyone has a different idea of being negative, but sometimes we have just people, let's say, eating up all our resources. In the long run, that is quite hard to handle, I think. But if we are strong enough, if we are eager enough to go through this process that I was mentioning of being a student of our own life, I think we can learn ways on how to protect ourselves and ways on how to either escape from these situations, because there are also cases where you just want to fly, the flight response of our ancestors, that's still available. I sometimes use it. I don't always change my environment. I sometimes just go somewhere else. But the idea of, knowing that you have the tools and you have the beliefs and you have the potential of, picking up what can be worked upon and working on it and transforming it. It's really about the intention. It's really about what do you want to remember in a situation? You have to go for the right questions. You know, coaches, you've had plenty of sessions on asking the right questions. You don't ask the question of why when you're in the middle of a hard situation. You ask yourself, what else? What now? How? You know, what can I learn out of this? You have to ask yourself the right question. And then I think one of the best practices is that you just surround yourself with good stuff, good people, good books, you know, good environments, good nature, good friends. Environment is extremely important in terms of transformation. My favorite quote by Zig Ziglar is, you are who you are and where you are because of what has been going into your mind. You can change where you are and what you are by changing what goes into your mind. So really, our mind is an extremely powerful filter. We can still make a choice wherever we are and how we want to live that experience.
Fantastic. So there was a question from Amarendra, and he asked that, does the language pose any challenge to you, assuming that you conduct programs in Italian language in your journey? So does that come across as a problem?
No, of course not. Of course, I mean, I don't mind. Let's put it this way. Well, languages are extremely important to me. I learned everything in the field of human, development, personal development through English. So English for me is the language that is connected to all the good stuff that I can learn in personal development. When I speak to my fellow Italians in Italian about personal change, I use my own language. So in a way, that's less emotional to me than when I speak to Amit or when I speak to Owen about my personal development, because I'm using English, even with my mistakes, but I'm using English, which is the language and the channel through which I did all the transformation. But of course, no, Italian is not a problem. The real challenge, I think, in my country is that I managed to find the good, inspiring examples to bring to people. Because if you tell Italians, the story of someone who was extremely poor and then made it through, like in America, you have plenty of these stories of people who became millionaires out of, nothing. That's something that doesn't really work in my country because, we have sometimes we have a bias against success or even, making money or becoming extremely wealthy. So I need to find suitable examples that speak to the heart of Italians. And I have collected many stories already. I just need to adapt the stories to our country and our history. Every country, every context has a special sensitivity. You just don't, apply a story wherever you are. You really have to calibrate where you're telling your story. I mean, that's the a thing to do. Step number one that we want to do we know this from NLP. You have to calibrate where your message goes. So language is not a problem for sure, but what is the challenge is to pick and choose the right inspiring examples that speak to the heart of Italians as opposed to the heart of Americans or Indians.
Great. So we do have, a few comments coming in, and they're all very nice and positive. So just want to read them out to you. Paula Sonal writes that, thanks very much. One of my is that we all can have a legacy and we can start from home. So, that's a wonderful thing, that we all feel, that legacy means we need to do something for the society and then, build a talent that can help society. That's not needed. You can actually start from home and still do a whole lot of things as a part of leaving a legacy. So thank you for that. Yashwant has written that the best part is I really liked is that first become self-sufficient and then help others. So yeah, that's a very good learning again as part of this session. So if I'll probably give one more chance if anyone would like to ask any questions, or otherwise we will close the session. So any more questions from anyone?
Yeah, Amit, can you hear me?
Yes, Hardeep.
Yeah, good evening to all, and thank you, Paula, for sharing your learnings and experience. It's very kind and humble of you. I had a small question. Paula, can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you, but I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Paula, there was this question that I wanted to ask you, is that what is the commonality you found in NLP and the learnings of Ziegler that, really helped you?
Well, Zig Ziglar, because he was an amazing communicator, he was already performing excellence the NLP way. And, NLP didn't create anything. NLP just observed success people, success therapists, success performers. And if you read Ziglar books or you hear him talk, and you see when he's the most influential and charismatic, when you recognize a pattern in NLP. So in this sense, he was not a forerunner of NLP, but because he was extremely powerful, you could see NLP live in him. Then the other thing that I find in common is that is this attitude towards the work. In NLP, as you know, we don't care about reading other people's minds. We don't expect to know what's going on in other people because we take for granted that everyone has a personal battle to live. And when there's a poor performance from other people, meaning that maybe they're being nasty to us, we don't put a judgment or a conclusion on that behavior. We just say there is a behavior A, and then there is a consequence B, but we don't necessarily put them together. So in a way, NLP, like Zig Ziglar, they're not judgmental in terms of putting labels on people. There's an approach that is very common. This approach is, I do my best. I work on the only thing that I can work upon, and that's me, myself. When I see, sometimes I read these Ziglar stories, or, they are all stories from his real life. Always, when he is successful or when he's telling us of a successful behavior, you can recognize an NLP pattern. So NLP is just a key to interpret reality. It's not, it's not a person, it's just a discipline that keeps evolving and that has many developers. Amit Pathak is also a developer of NLP. So the common thing I find between the two in any case is this, the fact that there's no judgment, there's just a responsibility that is taken upon. And of course, Zig Ziglar is an amazing speaker, and you can recognize extremely successful patterns in his communication, hypnotic communication, or all great communicators have similar patterns that you can recognize. In any case, he started, his first book was published in the 70s. Richard Bandler was writing with John Grinder his first book in 1975. It's quite interesting that it all started in those years. Although for personal development, it all dates back even from the 19th century. For me, it's extremely interesting to see that nobody has really invented anything. It's a continuity. It's everyone, can contribute to this awareness, this how shall I put, global human awareness about the importance of our communication. I have a friend, she's an NLP trainer, she's a philosopher, she studied philosophy and she can teach philosophy. Well, she told me, guys, it was all created already by the great philosophers. So maybe Zig is just another philosopher like we had in ancient tradition, and NLP just has the great intuition of giving us the patterns, giving us the recipe, giving us, making sure that we recognize the pattern. And there are more and more patterns that can be discovered. If you think of the goal setting procedure, that's something I ask myself very often. Why did Ziglar have this quite different goal setting procedure than we have? We have the well-formed outcomes. I think in my trainings and in my coaching sessions, I like to put these two together. The whole procedure that we use in NLP for the well-formed outcome, I think that's something that cannot be overlooked. That's something you have to have. Then if you add to that the Ziglar procedure and you put them together, then you have the maximum, the best really.
So Paula, I would like to probably mention here, in my master practitioner, I actually, try to put a goal setting procedure which includes the NLP well-formed outcomes along with the Ziglar procedure.
Okay, I'll send you something so you have a couple of inspiring models to see and work on.
Sure, do that because I do use them, and
we are all nerds here, I think. I mean, we're kind of nerds on these things. I will send you stuff. It will be interesting.
Thank you. So,
thank you, Paula. Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much.
We have enough time now to kind of conclude and wrap up the session. So, I would probably like to just close the session by mentioning to you and everyone, Paula, thank you very much for taking time out, for sharing so much of knowledge. There have been plenty of questions and a lot of good positive comments from everyone about how much they enjoyed this talk and what they learned out of it. So thank you very much. Enjoy.
It was great fun and pleasure. Thank you for your active participation. You were really inspiring to me today. Good luck with your life.
Sunshine, enjoy the vacation and the sea.
Okay, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank
you.
you.
Everybody.
Thank you all.